I'm figuring out what to do with these 5 thrifted items today, but whatever I do, I need it to be fast and easy. Welcome to my crafting channel. I'm Alana from Upcycling NZ. For project number 1, I've got a basket that I got from the school gala. I think it cost me $1 to $2. There's nothing special about this basket, so I'm going to dress it up. I'm taking some antiquing wax, and this is a folk art product. And I'm going to mix it 50-50 with some water. I'm using a chippy brush because it gets down nice and deep in the crevices. And I'm offloading most of the wax, and I'll use it like a wood stain and spread that wax around that's on the brush as far as I can, and I'll do all the sides and underneath, but I will be leaving the floor of the basket bare for now. I think the darker look is an improvement already on this basket. I do want a decoupage image on though, so I've chosen these sheep. In New Zealand we are huge lamb and wool producers, so we love our sheep. I'm going to shape this around the bottom of the basket, which is kind of a rectangular shape, and I'll fold it over into the size that I want it. I'll do the same to the bottom. To cut this, I'm going to use my metal ruler, and I'm folding the creases back the other way because there's one way where the ruler will not create too much white showing from the back, and the other way it does. So I've worked out which side rips cleaner, and now I think that's going to fit quite nicely. I will have to trim a couple of corners and a little edge along there. To decoupage my image on, I'm going to be using PVA glue, and I just get this cheap from the dollar store. I'm going to apply it quite liberally, and I'm going with the grain so that I don't end up with too much glue pooling in any one area. I don't want it dripping through to the other side. Because the paper I'm using is quite thick, I'm going to also apply a layer of glue to the back of my image. I'll just do that with my chippy brush again. If you were using rice paper for this, you probably wouldn't need to do this step, and if you wanted to use a napkin, you definitely don't do it this way. You would just lay it straight onto the base. So now I'll apply my image, and I'm making sure it's lining up nice and tidy, and I'm just gently pressing it on for now. As that paper gets really wet, it's going to get more and more delicate. So I'll take some cling wrap, and I'm going to wrap my hand so that I don't stick to my image, and so that it slides easily across the surface so I can press down harder. I'm going to change to Mod Podge now to put a layer on top of my image, and that's because there's a varnish quality to Mod Podge, and it's going to be a little bit harder and more water resistant. I always want people to be able to wipe my projects down with a damp cloth when they finish. So to make sure this is really hard wearing, I put another coat of Mod Podge on off camera, and now I'm just putting a third coat on. Once that was completely dry, I took some antiquing wax, and I just use a very small amount on a little piece of sponge, and I get my little sponges from a dish scourer and just cut it up. I'm applying this very sparingly around the edges, and I'm just spreading it out with the clean part of the sponge because I just want to tie the edges of my picture in with the colour of the basket. It's dry now, and you can see the weave through my picture, which was what I wanted. Next I'm going to take Feast and Watson, and this is a clear wax that's for furniture polishing. And I'll apply this all over my project to add some more protection. I would normally buff it off later, but I haven't used a lot of the product on this. I hope you like this farmhouse basket. Alright, on to project number 2. I picked up this heavy little silver dish. It's quite tarnished. I got it for $1 at the thrift store. And I want to use this transfer on it. Now these come from Temu, and if you can see the raised surface on it, I find these a little bit difficult to use. They tend to rip the paint up. So I'm going to use an acrylic exterior-interior semi-gloss. And I gave it 2 coats of paint, dried it overnight, and hopefully this transfer won't rip the paint up. To ensure that it doesn't, I'm going to go and fussy cut all of the plastic from around the image itself, because that's all very sticky, and the less of that I have, the less chance there is that it'll rip my paint up. I'll start to peel it back, and another reason I'm not particularly fond of these transfers is that it started to rip the picture itself, the image itself. So I had to start to peel from the other side to ensure that I picked up that picture without ripping it. So I managed to peel off the image and kept it intact. And now I'll just lay it down on my project, and I'm using the small transfer stick that came with the packet. And I'm going to rub on the image itself and not the plastic that's behind it. And you can see I'm just gently pulling that up as I lay my transfer down, just ensuring that the transfer has actually adhered. If it hasn't, I just lay the transfer back down and keep rubbing. It's getting easier now that I'm halfway through, so I'm going to change to my transfer spatula, and it makes the rest of it very easy to complete. Then I can just take the backing sheet that it came on, and on one side of it, it slides nicely over the transfer, so I can apply some pressure and make sure that it's down properly. The transfer still did lift a couple of tiny little areas of paint, so I'll just give that a touch up. Because I want my image to match the age of the dish itself, I'm going to add a little bit of antiquing wax. I'm going to offload most of it off the sponge, and then I'll just wipe that right around the edges, and I'll just use what's left on the sponge to go over my transfer and around the rest of the paintwork. I'll remove the excess, and that's left my paint with a nice deeper tone. I think the birds on this are just beautiful. Let me know what you think in the comments. For project number 3, my kids had a garage sale to get rid of all of their excess stuff, and they had these 2 bottles. They didn't sell, so of course they came home with me. They are a beautiful old aqua glass, and they've got beautiful designs embossed on them. I'm going to use my homemade chalk paint in the colour Kristen, and you're going to see just how well this homemade chalk paint works on glass. If you'd like to see how I make my homemade chalk paints, I'll put a link in the description below. I thought initially I'll leave some of that beautiful glass showing. I'm not sure how I feel about that, so I'll finish both bottles and then have another look. Once I'd finished the second one, I decided I didn't like the glass showing, so I'm going to paint it a solid colour, and I'll just be leaving the very top of the bottle and the base of the bottle unpainted. I just love the shape of these bottles. You just don't get them like this anymore. Once the first coat had completely dried, I took them and gave them a second coat, and that's all they needed. I also need that second coat to dry thoroughly, so I left them overnight before I took on the next part of the process. So I'm taking some sandpaper next, and I've got a very fine grit. It's a 240 grit, and I'm going to remove the paint from all of those raised surfaces. If you're not familiar with sandpaper, the higher the number, the finer the grit. I love this distress technique. It makes all of those beautiful details pop. It also allows for any bumps and scratches that the bottles might experience in the future. It will just blend into the look. I'll use a baby wipe to remove my sanding dust from the bottles. And once I'd dried off, I took some of my clear wax, the Feast & Watson soft wax, and applied some with my shaving brush to both bottles. This will really soak into the paint and harden it. It also deepens the colour slightly. These look absolutely gorgeous with some twine wound around the neck a couple of times and then tied in a bow. But I actually like the way they look all by themselves because they have so much detail on them. I just need to remove the excess wax after about 15 minutes with a paper towel. And then it occurred to me that I better have a look into what these bottles are exactly. So only the taller vinegar bottle had any markings on them. The other one just had designs. And I looked that up and it popped up as a museum piece. It was made in Great Britain by Champion and Slee Limited, and it's pre-1909, so this is about 116 years old, the vinegar bottle. It was poured in 2 halves and it has a seam down one side, and so does the other bottle, although there's no markings on that one except a 4 at the base. So I'm picking they're about the same age, but if you know more, please let me know. For project number 4, I've got another one of those dollar silver trays. This is probably a sweet tray or something along those lines. I'm going to paint this in my homemade chalk paint in the colour Michelle, but I'm going to leave the very rim unpainted and just be very careful around those open holes. I'm not going to paint them until I've got not much paint left on the brush, and then I'm just patting the paint on so that it doesn't pull up at the back of my project. It's probably good to know that all of these projects that I use chalk paint on, if you did feel the need to remove the paint later on, like for instance with those bottles being a little bit more valuable because of their age, you can soak these in hot soapy water. Leave them soaking for a few hours and you'll be able to remove the paint with a scourer. I'm going to be decoupaging on a napkin, and I love this round design for my project. First I'm going to have to remove the ply from the back of the napkin, and I'm using sellotape to do this. It just makes it a lot easier. If you've got 3-ply, you need to remove both of the plies from the back. Now I'll cut out my circular design. And this is the reason why I painted my project first. I want this white in my napkin to really pop. I want a few of those delicate butterflies as well. I figured out I needed 6 to make my project symmetrical. Now I'm just going to use PVA glue to decoupage these on. So I'm putting a nice even coat around the base and slightly up the edges because that's how big my design is. I'll lay my design down very gently and just pat it on, and then I'm just going to very lightly brush what was left of my glue on the brush to help lay my design down. And you see I'm working from the centre out. Next I'll add my little butterflies, and I'm going to put them centred between the 2 cutouts around the edge. And now, as you can see, it looks like this is printed onto my project rather than applied with glue. Now I think that's reminiscent of that British blue china. I'm going to add Mod Podge to do a top coat once that first coat had dried. And I'm going to seal all of that paint in with the Mod Podge as well while I'm at it, just to have a consistent coating. Again, once it's dry, this will be able to be wiped clean with a damp cloth. I would love to know what you think of this one. Please let me know in the comments. And now for my last project. I've got this little box that I also got from the gala for $2. It appears to be totally handmade, so this could be very old as well. You can kind of tell from the hinges and the clasp at the front. I don't want to mess with its natural beauty too much, so I'm just going to remove the sticker and I'll give it a really good clean. While I was doing that, I couldn't help but appreciate just how much love and hard work had gone into creating this. I'm going to keep my upcycle very simple. I've got this beautiful wisteria transfer. I want to work it around the clasp at the front, so I'm just getting the orientation right, and I'll put a slit in it so that I can work around that little clasp before I lay it down. So I'm just using my spatula again. Now these ones I got from Temu as well, but they are lovely to use. These are the matte version of their transfers. The trick is really not to press down on them until you are ready to lay them down. So I did one side of the clasp first before I laid down the other one completely. You have a bit of play until you press on them, and then they are going to stay there regardless. I'm burnishing that on with my carrier sheet again. I think that worked out perfectly. I'm taking the soft wax to give it a clear wax and give that wood a really good drink. And you can see why that's such a good furniture polish. Look at the colour coming out in that wood. It's also sealing my transfer while I'm at it. I'm putting wax on all of the metal fittings as well. That'll just help to preserve them and stop them from rusting any further. And I love the natural look of that age on them. And I'll do the inside of the box as well. Looking at the ink staining in this box, I would suggest that this used to be for ink pens when you used to dip them in ink to write. I waited about 10 or 15 minutes and then I buffed off the excess with a paper towel. I had wanted to put a little bit of text on the front of the box as well, but I couldn't find it. Then it popped up, of course. So because I'd waxed it, I really wet that lower part that I put the transfer on and wiped all of the wax off it so that I could apply my transfer properly. It's still lifted a little bit, but that's alright. It adds to the distressed look, and I'll just replace my wax on it afterwards. And it's done. Hey, thanks so much for joining me. I post weekly, so if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. I hope you'll have a fantastic weekend. Goodbye for now from stunning New Zealand.